Really, an auction puts the seller in complete control. They say when it's going to sell. It's either absolute or reserve, but it's going to be the day they want to sell it. They have the dates that they're going to have the property open for inspection. They have the date that they're taking bids, if it's an online auction, or the date that they're going to do the bid calling. And then you close non-contingent contract within 45 days or less of the auction typically.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jack and Terry Show. Our special guest today is Jeff Farmer. He is an auctioneer with Tranzon Real Estate Advisors. He's a longtime community leader here in Hardin County. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Hi, Jack and Terry.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Good to be here.
And of course, I'm with my co-host, Jack Konecki, the granddaddy of all small businesses, and Radcliff. Jack, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Terry. Good to see you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Now, Jack, I don't know if you've had very much experience with auctions. I've had a little bit, not nearly as much as Jeff, and that's why we wanted to invite him on today to talk about some of the aspects of the auction business and that method of selling real estate. My experience with auctions has always been favorable. I like to go to the auctions because of the energy level there. But Jack, I think you mentioned you haven't been to an auction in a while.
No, it's been quite a while since I've been to an auction. It's one of those things I can't keep my hands still when I go. So I just have to put my hands in my pocket. That gets tiresome. You can't spend any money.
We love attendees like that, Jack.
Oh, I bet you do.
Well, the trend seems to be going a lot toward the online auction, but I know you guys are still doing the in-person auctions, Jeff. What would you say, we're talking about real estate auctions here. What would you say to somebody thinking about an auction? What's the big distinction between selling your property at auction and just listing your property and waiting for offers to come in?
Sure. Most people do the conventional route, as you're discussing. We like to call that the normal way of doing it. We like to do it extraordinary, basically, with an auction, in that, really an auction puts the seller in complete control. They say when it's going to sell. It's either absolute or reserve, but it's going to be the day they want to sell it. They have the dates that they're going to have the property open for inspection. They have the date that they're taking bids, if it's an online auction, or the date that they're going to do the bid calling. And then you close non-contingent contract within 45 days or less of the auction typically. And so the seller is kind of the driver on all the dates, whereas a conventional listing, they put the price out that they want, but then the buyer kind of drives the transactional process by when they want to come see it, what contingencies they need, financing or inspections. And then some of those things sometimes can trip up the price or even the whole deal in a conventional method. Whereas an auction, it's as is, where is, and it's done within basically 60 days of them signing the listing agreement.
Yeah, there's a lot of features about an auction that are very attractive. I think one of the things, and it's nothing new, I think that part of the fear that a person might have of going into an auction with their property is that it didn't sell. But like you just described, you can have that contingency there where if it doesn't reach a certain price, then they don't have to sell. Obviously, you're not going to attract a very big crowd unless it's an absolute auction. But do you agree that that's kind of one of the obstacles for people just really jumping into an auction?
Sure. When you know that an absolute, or I know it from experience, that an absolute auction, when you tell people it's going to sell regardless of price, you get every potential participator from low to high whenever you advertise it that way. And you're really trusting the market then at that point, and your auctioneer, of course, but you're putting the trust in the market that the driver is going to be the opportunity to possibly get a good deal. And you want that the low bidders have to be there to push the higher bidders to where you want them to be.
Right. And it's typically going to sell at market or better.
That's right.
Because the market's really what drives that. As you said, in an absolute auction, you're attracting a really wide group of people, especially now the way you're doing it with your online auction platform. You guys are attracting buyers all over the world.
Yes, yes.
That's
And that helps
amazing.
a whole lot too, because a lot of the other markets, in California or Arizona or wherever they're bidding from, New York or Minnesota, those are typically, they're at higher prices and they're typically used to that. So, but you're right, to answer your question a while ago, the hardest thing is you want to put yourself in the seller's shoes, because you got to take a deep breath to sign an absolute auction. And it's tough. So we try to work around that when we can. If they're just dead set on having a reserve, we'll still start the auction at zero, because we want to give bidders an opportunity to get their feet wet, get excited about making a bid, but it's just always better when they think that might be the winning bid. It's easier to get them to make it.
Another point you made was about contingencies, and that makes a lot of sense to people. If you're a seller, if you got a whole lot of contingencies in order to get to the closing table, there's always the risk that you won't get there. You have to start over. Whereas an auction, a deal is done. There's no contingencies.
Yes.
That's a little scary for folks sometimes. The number of people that are choosing to go that route, though, is probably more in the commercial area, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, when you get someone that's, especially if it's not their money, that always helps. If they're just in a board position or a bank REO officer or something like that, it's a whole lot easier with those type of clients. No sentimental attachment, those type of things really help to seller go ahead and make that decision. If it's an estate, if it's sentimental because they raised a family there or those type of things, it can be a lot tougher to get them to see the actual value of the property. They always think it's more,
Right.
But then also to get them to sign an absolute auction in that regard.
What would you say you're looking for is the most ideal person that would fit into the auction method of selling real estate?
Someone that needs it done quickly, more than anything. I mean, the misnomer is that auctions are for distressed properties. And that's the bad way to look at it, because really, if you've got an ideal property, look at the property right here behind me. This was the former Valvoline headquarters in Lexington, and they had built a new headquarters. And I didn't get to be the lead on this, but Ed Durnall was the lead on this property. It sold at auction for, I think it was a little over $8 million. It was a really good bargain, but then it was also great for Valvoline to be able to get that asset that they had already used for 20 some years and had depreciated and outgrown. And it was just a quick, easy way to get it off their books and actually get them a good neighbor, because they built right near this facility. So, so it doesn't have to be a distress situation. It's just the timeline and the ability to do it without contingencies is a great way to put it out there right off the bat. I typically always have it in my tool belt. As you know, Terry, my real estate license is with Simonin, and I do commercial real estate through Simonin. But my auction license is with Tranzon. So I'm able to go in and provide different options and give them the pros and cons of each avenue that they might want to take.
Jeff, let me say this to you. I really appreciate all your work, especially, well, Jeff and I have been working together on a project too, I might mention, Jack, and it's worked out real well. I would recommend to anybody that's interested in an auction, go straight to Jeff and get that conversation going, because these guys know what they're doing. They've done a great job. Well, Jeff, I'll leave you with the last word. What do you want folks to know about Jeff or Tranzon or whatever you want to tell them about?
Well, just keep your eyes and ears open, because there's exciting things happening in Radcliff, Eatown, Hardin County, our whole region. And if anybody ever does want to talk about an auction or just the different levels that you can sell a property and look at the pros and cons, you can reach me on my cell phone at 270-268-5682. 5315. And I really
Excellent.
appreciate being here with you two legends. Thank you.
Yeah, Jack's the legend, granddaddy
Yeah,
of all small
sure.
businesses in Radcliff. Folks, that was Jeff Farmer. He was on here today talking to us about the auction method of selling real estate. He's been doing that successfully for many years. He has a lot of background, a lot of skill in that area. He's currently an auctioneer with Tranzon Real Estate Advisors over there with Ed Durno. They're doing a great job. And he's also a long-term community leader here in Hardin County, making a big difference for the business community here. Jeff, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And Jack, it's good seeing you, and we'll see you again in about a week.
Good to see you, Terry. Good to see you, Jeff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.